See, in the future, it's going to be like equinoxia. It's almost going to look like, and I don't want to offend anybody, but sort of like a Islamic Legoland. You know, architecturally in a way, not completely, I don't say Islamic, but you don't have any idol worship. It's just like this equanimity, you know what I mean? And there'll be symbols like how playing cards, like everything's to teach you, like the 16 in blackjack. It's that, and do I hit? Do I stay? We'll get into that another time. But anyway, so like everything will be made from reusable things, but it'll be incorporated into the design. Planned obsolescence will be a thing of the past. Everything will be made to last because everybody's sharing everything. So, like for example, when I had a condo, instead of drilling holes into the wall that you needed spackle and stuff like that, I just took shower curtain rods and put like 6 of them in the closet. Low, high, left wall, low, high, middle, low, all around. And then when I leave, I just turn the thing, take it with me. It'll be like a version of that, you know what I'm saying? Where chair legs and table legs, they're made out of the same stuff. And it's, like I said, like Legos in a way, but a little different. And so people will go to work to make the essential substances, but it's all the same thing. And it's not really work. There's just a score that shows how much we need of everything, and then whatever you plug in, shows on your score. Everybody knows like what you contributed. If you're walking in the park and there's like dog crap or something, because nature will abound, but let's just, as a way of making anything more beautiful, you scoop it up, you throw it in the can or whatever, the recycle bin. Everything will be recycled, really, but it logs in a merit. You know what I mean? And so everything will be chipped. Well, in a couple generations, there'll be no need for it. But in the beginning, everything will be chipped so that, little kids can walk down the street again. The dangerous chips won't be allowed within a certain radius of the kids, or, things spring into action to prevent that from happening. And so within a generation or two, there won't be any dangerous chips because the kids weren't abused, so they don't grow into dangerous chips. That's all it really takes. And so everything will be like light and love. It'll be like Isaiah. Where there'll be meat, it may be 3D printed, grown in labs eventually, which is a lot like vegetables because there's no suffering involved. And so the whole world is going to operate like a library or like a giant timeshare network, but everything will be free. But it's not really free, it's just what you're currently consuming and occupying. So everybody will know all the resources in the world. It'll be right up on a score on the page. And today we got to go to work to balance things. Not everybody every day, but, when it's your feeling like or your turn or whatever. But, you get merits for that, for what you're able to currently occupy. And it'll be delivered by drone, and the cars will drive themselves and things like that. Wealth will be inverted. There'll really be no such thing as wealth. There'll be a score of what you're currently occupying. And if you have too much of it, it'll just be like, hoarding. It'll be like a stigma, kind of like a scarlet letter. Not so much if you're disabled, because there'll be a score to show like what your abilities are versus what you're, consuming and what you need. And nobody's really going to feel bad about it, though, I mean, if somebody's just totally out of whack, like they just have all this talent and ability, but they're just consuming and taking from everybody, I mean, there won't be any esteem for them, so they won't want to do that. They'll all want to give to their fellow man. Both because they're enlightened, but also because for selfish reasons. It'll be an irrelevant distinction. You understand? So that's how it's going down. And then, like, you say, well, will there be a limit on, like, how many children you can have? No, it just gets, detracted from your score. Sometimes there might be a need for more children, and then you might get merits for having them. So sometimes, we might need more stuff, and you'll have to put in more effort to make up for having your children. Or your children will make up for it the quicker you get them up to speed. But the children will work and learn at the same. Everything will be an apprenticeship because there's only one thing to teach. And that's efficiency, basically. But efficiency is love. It's light. It's all the same thing. But this is what you'll start to understand. So this is where the world is going, right? It's not that it's going. Nobody's going to control it. It's going to be a natural outcome of the spiritual shift that's going to take place. Technology is going to help it. But so all these petty grievances you see, people fighting and jealousy and rage and anger and petty power grabs, and it's going to evaporate is what's going to happen. There's not going to be a need. It's not going to be the big, the great reset. It's going to be the great hybrid. It's going to be the oh duh. See, it doesn't matter this system, whether you have anarchy, like global anarchy, which we already have. I mean, anarchy produced government. It's the same guy. Or global socialism, communism, a global collective. It doesn't matter because it's the same thing. The only thing that matters is the people, the individuals. You either have good people to run it or you don't. So, like in anarchy, it's whoever has the guns, basically. And in global communism, it's whoever has the guns. The government is the big gun in the room, right? Whoever controls the thing, right? By implication. So, because you haven't voted for a president in your life. It comes down to whether you believe in human nature or whether you believe in God. And a lot of you might not understand that yet, but that's really all it is. If you think the top of that pyramid is evil, you're not really paying attention close enough. It looks like it. If you think man is in control. But I know something different. I know something very different. And it's coming. It's inevitable as the sun rises. And it might get worse before it gets better. But this is all in your perception and who you think you are, But a different story is going to get told, and I'm going to tell it. And I'm going to speak it into existence. So, whether you're an ego, or you're a god, or you're enlightened, all these distinctions are going to evaporate into irrelevance when you understand that everything's verb. So we'll go a little deep for just a sec. Maybe we won't. Should we hold on? I don't know. I'll give you a little bit of it. So, we already explained, what Zeno's paradox is, right? You guys understand this? Because that's the eye. That's the eye of Horus and all that. It's a measuring system, the halves. Well, why is that? Okay, well, Zeno's paradox, if I take a step towards the wall, and then the next step I take is half as long as the first one. And then the next one is a quarter as long. And then an eighth and a 16th and a 32nd and a 64th and whatever. Kind of like, megabytes. 512 megabyte card, right? With infinite steps, will you ever hit the wall? I first thought of this when I was sitting in math class. Actually, what happened was I was sitting in my bed one night, and I saw in the door just rows of numbers. It almost looked like the Matrix. It was just fluttering numbers. It was long before I ever done any drugs or anything. I'm just sitting there looking. I seen them visually, like almost like a hallucination, like you took LSD, but I just saw it, and this big wave of like paranoia came over me. And I went and I opened the door, like, what the hell? I stomped down the hallway. My mother next to me, she's like, I heard you stomping. I don't know what you're doing. But anyway, I saw that, and then the next day, I was looking at the pie chart on the marker board, and I just asked the teacher, I'm like, if you filled like half of that pie tray, and then a quarter, and then like, with infinite pieces, would you ever fill the tray if each piece was half as big? Zeno's paradox. And the algebra will tell you they solved it with the difference between potential infinities and real infinities and all, but they missed the point. They missed the joke. It's fine. But no, how could you? You could never hit the wall because everything can mean, fractions can be split infinitely, right? Because, hey, that doesn't make any sense. Like if you're moving forward, eventually you got to get there. But no, not if every step is half as big. So the teacher, I guess maybe she was trying to explain that. I think she just didn't know. But what she said was, she scratched her head a minute. She's like, well, no, because, eventually you wouldn't be able to cut the pie piece anymore. It would just be crumbs. I said, you mean you can't cut a crumb in half? Like for anything to exist, it has to have a left side and a right side. And between whatever that volume or mass or whatever is, there's a middle, so it can be split. But then the next thing you can do it again, right? So you can do that forever. So as we study, at the subatomic level, no matter what we find, everything, for it to be a thing, for it to be a noun, has to be infinitely divisible. Because it's a thing, right? It exists, and it's got sides, and the sides you can split the difference. So you take that concept, right, and you combine it with everything as a verb. And here's why. So like you think about your body, right? If you stop taking in air for a hot second, you fall apart pretty quickly. Why? Because it constantly has to... you have parts, and your parts have parts, and those parts need constant replacement. So that's what growing and aging is. You need food, water. You constantly got to be moving things through it because it's a verb. Like nothing exists as a noun. This chair I'm looking at right here. I promise you, if I vacuum sealed it, just left it there, just nothing touched it ever, given enough time, it will not be there anymore. Why? Because the particles wear down their entanglements. Everything is just a relationship between them. You know what I mean? So whether it's between protons and electrons or quarks or mesons or whatever, they're connected. And sooner or later, those relationships wear out and things fall apart. So everything's a verb, but yet there's only one thing. The one thing is the noun. And so like God withdrew. Because what's the only thing if God's omniscient, what would be the only thing he'd be lacking? Restriction. Can God create a rock so heavy that God can't lift it? You see the paradox there, right? So we are those pixels for God to experience that, so that it would know what it is. But when everybody really understands this, not on just like an intellectual level, but like just as they move, it's the way to conquer division and hate. Because when you can just bring people there, quickly, when they get it, there's no reason for lust and greed and anger and jealousy. It just evaporates. It's not like something you have to tame or work on. It just goes away. So I'll get back more deep into the concepts to help you if you can't see that and what I'm saying. Just giving you like a couple of them. See, so you take noun-verb irrelevance, the distinction irrelevance, plus Zeno's paradox, and, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. It's all the same thing. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The second seal of Buddhism. Not the second noble truth, but the second seal. Interdependence, impermanence, infinite divisibility. You say, that's all mumbo jumbo. You're just, that's just like, you're just talking gibberish. How does that help me in my daily life? Like, what is it, the hell is it? You're just talking like crazy, string theory stuff or something. But you're going to understand how, because I'll give you a practical example. I'll give you two. So, I remember like driving to work in the morning and, come around the corner. If there were 4 cars at the light, I knew that the light's right about to change, so I'm going to drive straight at the light. If there were no cars at the light had just changed and let them through. It was about the same amount of traffic. It's the same people going to work every day at the same time. You could set it like a clock. So what I would do is I'd either make a left before the light and hook through the car wash, or go down the street and make a right by the country farms. But it has saved me a minute. Now there were days when, to try to get to work, if I didn't make it on time, you go to the bottom of the wheel. And you might not get a tour that day, a chance to sell somebody. And so on like the last day of the year, I needed like one deal to hit bonus. And the bonus was like a cumulative for the year. So, it wasn't just a deal. We're talking about, $15,000 now because of the way it works for the year. So that 1 minute saved because you live on that level of precision, right? There's 20 grand, 15, whatever the fuck it was. But say you come around the corner and there's 2 cars at the light, or one, and one in front of you just trying to drive up to the light. Well, that's like, the 15-16 in blackjack, right? Yeah, just a intuitive vibe of like how many times when you came around the corner and you saw 2 cars at the light, did it really change? Did you wait a second? Did it save you to go this way or that way? It's like playing blackjack. I'll give you another one. Like how you can sort your laundry for the liberation of all beings. So, a lot of people, they do things without the Mesonoxian insight, without infinite divisibility and noun-verb distinction, irrelevance, and all that. So, what do? They just take all their clothes and they throw it in the washer. Or they separate them, right? Separate them to piles, like you got your darks, your brights, your lights, whatever, your whites, your bleachables. Well, you ever notice how this one could kind of be a light or a bright if it had to, This one could be, I could bleach it, I could not bleach it, it could go in the light, sort of. There's like a division point in there. And so you want to make completely equal piles so that you save water and detergent. Now imagine that was a score that helped everybody worldwide every time you did it. And everybody knew it, and it was all on your page and your graph and your score and your whatever, right? Everything, all day. Now, it's celebratory, but it's just precision. So So you make your piles equal, and this one could be a dark, it could be a bright. Just to move it around and make the piles equal. Instead of just blindly and without thought throwing it all in there. Imagine the whole world being just like that, knowing exactly where that division point is for the benefit of everything. Just blackjack all day long. Everybody's just playing blackjack with everything. That's where we're going. Whether you know it right now or not. And it incorporates all the stories. It incorporates all your religions. It incorporates all your science. It's the unification of all knowledge through the expression of truth and beauty. Like Da Vinci. Beauty. And so you're going to see like this futuristic Islamic Lego land. I say Islamic, but just giving you a rep, Doesn't have to be there, but it's because it's going to change a little in geographic regions because we like that. It's celebratory. Italians are still going to be good at making spaghetti. Chinese music is still going to sound different than, I mean, some people do a fusion, work it all in, speaking multiple languages all at the same time over song. Others will still celebrate history. And nature will abound. And you'll be able to talk to the birds and the squirrels. They will not hurt nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea.